Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. Over the past few days I've had a little bit of technical difficulties filming. I really wanted to have my video about my PhD up, but alas, that will be coming in the next few weeks. Today I thought I would just put together a little bit of a garden with me video. I filmed a few clips over the past couple of days, ones that I was hoping would make it into a separate vlog, but footage was lost and I made mistakes. So today is going to be a mishmash of different things that I'm getting up to in the garden. Predominantly, I just need to get a lot of things planted. So it's going to be a little bit of a longer video of filling in all of the spots in the garden that need plants in them. I just feel like it is very bare in there at the moment and I like it to be nice and full of flowers and food that we can eat. So for my Sunday relaxation, I went to a nursery and picked up a few plants. I love buying plant starts, but I also love starting my own seeds. I don't think there's a problem with either of them. Whatever you can do, you should just do. I picked up a few different things. First of all was some sweet corn. I had really bad germination of my sweet corn, so I just need to get more in the ground. So I bought some more seeds and some starts that I'm going to be planting today. I have a new obsession with flowers and growing flowers. So I picked up 3 punnets of flowers that I'm going to be planting today as well. The first are these beautiful giant asters. These grow to about 85 to 90 centimeters tall and prefer full sun. So these are going to go in and around the garden. And I picked up some dahlias. These are called high dolly dahlias. So I'm hoping I get a nice mixture of different colors. These grow to 50 centimeters tall. And I also picked up some more straw flowers because I've been loving drying these. I'm going to be sharing how I am drying some of my flowers and making a few Christmas presents. So I think for today's video, it is very windy. Lovely temperature this afternoon, which is why I'm super excited to get out into the garden and plant a few things. But I'm going to put a voiceover over a few different clips that I've already taken and what I'll get up to today, just to talk you through things that I'm doing. But I just want this to be kind of a relaxing garden with me video, spending some time with me on a Sunday afternoon in the garden. So before I get into planting these, we'll jump back a few days to when I was planting some sweet potatoes and some cucumbers. So I'm sure everyone has an area in their garden where things just grow, usually out of compost piles. And this is my area here where I have been growing my pumpkins and just random things that have grown out of some compost that I put around fruit trees. The first job that I had to do on this day was remove all of the sweet potatoes in this area because they were kind of just growing randomly everywhere. Rocky was helping me out today having a snack of grass. But I really just wanted to clean up this area just to help out my family a little bit, and I thought I would just use the sweet potatoes that were growing around here, which we did harvest quite a few of them a few months ago. They're really delicious, but I thought I would take these out of this area and plant them in the garden beds where they can really thrive. Because you can see these are very small and the ground is really compacted here, so they're just not growing how I want them to grow. But they were providing a really good ground cover. So you can know where the actual sweet potato tubers are by finding where the vine is connected to the ground. So that was what I was doing. I was just going along the vine and finding where it was tugging a little bit, and usually there was a small sweet potato underneath the soil. So I grabbed all of these out. They weren't really looking that great to eat just because they had been in this really hard compacted soil for a long time. But I did notice that a lot of them were starting to come out of the ground, like you can see with these ones, and they were actually starting to sprout as well, which was good for me because I could just plant these straight into the ground into better soil where they can thrive a lot more. So you can see that some of these are actually starting to sprout, and these were perfect to plant into the ground. So I took some of these slips, like this one here, and just planted some of the other whole sweet potatoes into this veggie patch. I'm planting these around a rosella because this is going to grow quite nice and tall and provide a little bit of shelter for these, just because this area gets full sun in the afternoon and isn't going to really agree with our really hot summer temperatures. So planting it around a rosella bush or another kind of tree or okra is a really good idea. Alright, so the next job, I really wanted to get rid of everything that was growing in these planters here. These have been so great. I've had these for years and taken them to all of the different rental properties that I've had. They're good because they're on wheels and they're just a really nice manageable size that you can really grow a lot of food in. I was growing some beetroots in here, so I was growing some golden beets, and they just weren't really growing any bigger because they were planted quite close, and as the temperatures warm up it's harder to grow beets in southeast Queensland. So I just took all of them out, and these were a yummy addition to a roast dinner. I also have a Brazilian spinach in here that was loving this area, but again I just needed this space for what I'm going to plant after this. So I am just propagating this and putting it into another pot, and I can plant this around the garden. This is a great spinach for southeast Queensland and warmer climates. It does okay in dry climates, but it does thrive a lot more in shady areas. So I'm just fluffing up this soil. There are a lot of worms in this soil, and I also found some random kind of eggs in there, which may be from a lizard or something. So I was careful and put those back out into around the pool area. And I'm just filling up this, kind of using the no dig method with these planters with some potting mix. This has some fertilizer in it as well, just to rejuvenate the soil and give food for the plants that I'm going to be planting. So I'm just using all-purpose fertilizer for this, and I'm planting some Space Master cucumbers. These grow really nice and compact, so are a perfect variety if you're growing in containers or doing balcony gardening. And I have a little trellis for these to grow up. So I'm going to see whether they grow better on a trellis like this one here. And in the other planter, I just planted them without a trellis to see how they do. We had mowed the lawn the day before and I just wanted to use all of that up. So I'm just using that as mulch around these cucumbers, and this dries perfectly fine. I've never had a problem with grass seeds in containers like this. And then just giving it a nice water, and I kept these kind of just in a shadier area for their first few days before putting them out into more sun. And then I thought I would show you just how I make my no-dig garden beds. This video has lots packed into it, so I'm hoping you're enjoying it so far. What I like to do is I like to lightly kind of fork the soil, and all this is doing is providing the soil with a little bit of air and different holes for water to penetrate the soil. I'm putting a layer of partially composted horse manure on top of this, and this is going to be a nitrogen layer. Again, like I always say, our soil is depleted a lot of nitrogen, so I need to add a lot in for the plants to survive. I'm also adding some coffee grounds here. Coffee is another great nitrogen-rich material. And then on top of that, I know it's a lot of nitrogen, but we do need a lot in our soil. I'm adding a thin layer of grass clippings, and this actually does have quite a bit of carbon in it as well. Particularly in our climate, this dries really quickly. And that's exactly what it has done, but it's going to provide a little bit of a cap over that manure layer. So I'm just sprinkling that all over, and then I'm capping the whole thing with sugarcane mulch, which is my favorite type of mulch to use. And this is just going to let all of that compost down below. So then a few days later, this was ready to plant into. Shadow is just being Shadow in this video and coming around wherever I am. Having a fun ride in the wheelbarrow. But yeah, you can see I have a lot of plants to plant. That's me having a realization moment. But in this no-dig bed that I just prepared, I'm going to be planting some sunflowers. I just really love having a lot of flowers in the garden and love trying new varieties. So I'm trying this one here. I've never grown it before. It grows to about 1.5 meters, so that's great because I'm putting it up the back of the garden, so that's going to provide a lot of height, and that's going to mean I'm going to see it a lot better than if it's all kind of mixed in the garden. You'll see here, you can see that grass is starting to decompose a little bit, but just to be safe, what I'm doing is making kind of little divots in this no-dig bed and trying another sunflower as well. And to plant these seeds, I don't really want to be planting the seeds right into grass clippings or manure. So what I'm doing is I'm filling these rows with some potting mix and then planting into that. So this is going to allow those seeds to germinate really well, and everything around this potting mix is still going to decompose and over time just feed all of the plants that I plant into this bed. Making sure to cover all of the potting mix as well because we need to retain as much moisture as we can. I'm doing the exact same thing with some basil seedlings that I had. These were getting munched on so bad by caterpillars. And I'm also planting another rosella here as well. And I like to plant herbs, trees, bushes, flowers all in together just to create a really nice biodiverse mix of different species to kind of confuse bugs and just create a lot of diversity in my soil and what's above the soil. I'm planting a very sad okra here. We'll see if it survives. I did have a few problems with damping off with the potting mix. I just was watering the seedlings too much, so we'll see how it grows. And I'm also going to be planting some different types of basil throughout the garden. This one here has a gorgeous red and green colour. You can see they're very sad looking basils, but this ruby red basil is just going to be really nice in flower arranging if it ends up growing and I haven't completely killed these plants. So I'm just going to be planting these in and around my flowers. So you can see things are definitely looking a little bare, so I'm going to fill in some of these gaps with some more zinnias. These are polar bear. I like to fill polar bear and some of the other just neutral coloured flowers throughout the whole garden just to provide a little bit of pop of colour, and I feel like white flowers or the envy zinnia goes really well throughout the whole garden just to provide a little bit more interest. So I'm planting these around another rosella plant. I feel like they're going to look really pretty against the red and green foliage. And then I'm planting some of the Clemson's spineless okra. This is my favorite okra. I really like the taste. I'm not bothering just growing these as seedlings, I'm just planting them straight in the ground and just putting sticks where I planted them to make sure that I remember. And I have 2 bush beans that didn't come up, so I'm planting more of these just to fill in the gaps. And then planting another row of these just to get a little bit more of a succession of bush beans. Alright, Shadow's being Shadow again. This is usually what he does around the garden, is just sleep and loves getting pats all the time. Next, I'm planting that punnet of sweet corn in the garden. I'm planting this again in another one of my no-dig beds that I've actually let sit for a few weeks. This has a lot of horse manure in it, and I have had so much success with just really high nitrogen soils for corn. Because you really treat corn like a grass, it prefers really high nutrients and a lot of water as well in the initial stages. So I'm making sure that this bed has a lot of organic matter and really well mulched to retain all of that moisture. And last job of the day was just filling in some of the flowers. I really have been loving this little flower bed, which also has some random corn and herbs in it as well. But down the back here is where the soil just is a little bit poor, and I wanted to fill all of this in, so I planted a lot of the asters and the dahlias all throughout this bed, hoping to just get some more beautiful blooms to enjoy. So to wrap this video up, I thought I would just kind of show you a little bit of an overview of what everything looks like. It's been a week now since everything has been planted in the garden, and a lot of these seeds are starting to sprout, so I'll give you a full overview of what everything looks like. So the first bed here was where I planted all of the basil, and I planted also a rosella down here, and you can see the sunflowers starting to come up in these few rows. So I think this will look really pretty, having a bunch of sunflowers here at the top of this garden. Moving down the garden now, I'll show you where the corn is planted. The corn is kind of towards the end of the garden down here. This is where I planted a lot more zinnias throughout here, and I also put in some sunflower seeds throughout the entire garden as well. I planted a row of bush beans at the end of the tomatoes, and these are all starting to pop up now. These are just green beans, so we'll have a nice row of those. And then moving up from then is all of the corn, which I've been watering it every day and also feeding it some worm tea, so it's been loving that. Next to the corn is a row of dahlias, and then I've planted some okra where those sticks were, and they have all popped up. So I planted 2 seeds in each hole. They've all popped up, so I'm going to be transplanting one out of each of those holes and just planting it somewhere else in the garden. I've done a row of straw flowers around this okra to kind of just give it a little bit of shape, and then a different variety of bush beans up the back next to a row of dahlias down there. The last few plants next to the corn down in this aisle, I planted some asters, and they've all been settling in nicely. And then back behind here in my flower patch, I planted all of those dahlias and asters, and they're not doing amazing just yet, but again, I think I'm going to seriously need to give some love to this area of the garden. You can see that it is at the very top of this slope, so a lot of the nutrients is kind of washing away. So I need to do something about that. But everything else in here is looking really, really beautiful, especially that corn. really, really nice. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for lots more garden content. I know it was a long video, but I'm so glad that I planted all of these plants in the ground just to kind of fill in the garden and have a lot more food and beauty to enjoy. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are in the world, and until my next video, happy gardening everyone. Bye.